I think this is going to be a fantastic Stanley Cup Finals. I really do. When you look at the Florida Panthers, what the Florida Panthers had to do to get here was absolutely amazing. They had to beat the number one seed, the best team in NHL history in the regular season, and arguably one of the greatest seasons for a goaltender in Ullmark that we'll probably ever see. He had the best goals against, the best save percentage. I mean, you name it, he had it. Wins, losses. The guy was unbelievable. And then when he got into the playoffs and he was matched up against the number 8 seed who barely sneaked into the playoffs, when everybody, including yours truly, was questioning why they traded for Matthew Tkachuk in the offseason. I thought it was crazy. And they were the best offensive team in the NHL last year. They were the number 1 seed. And then they go in, they sneak into the playoffs with probably a weaker team, and they're all the way in the Stanley Cup Finals. They beat the Boston Bruins. They practically beat up on the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, they just absolutely pulverized the Hurricanes. If the Florida Panthers go into the Vegas series and win this series, I honestly would believe this is the greatest run in NHL history.
And it would be statistically true, too, because they would have beaten 4 of the top 5 teams in overall points this season. Vegas had the most points in the Western Conference, 111. I think they were the lowest team on the list. The Devils were the only team that was above them. So Boston, obviously 134 points that they had. Toronto and Carolina were above the Devils. So that's 4 of top 5 teams. And the Panthers were the lowest overall points coming in, too. They only got in because the Penguins lost to the Blackhawks and the Blue Jackets at the end of the season. And I don't think Pittsburgh's making that kind of run the way Florida has, not with their cap hits and lack of physicality. No, they don't have anyone like a Matthew Tkachuk and Sergei Bobrovsky, for sure.
I think it's been absolutely something we'll always remember, and if somehow the Florida Panthers pull this off, and I believe they will, as good as Las Vegas is, as good as Las Vegas had all throughout the season and throughout the playoffs, and they've beaten pretty good teams too. They ran right through Dallas, and Dallas shouldn't have even been matched up on the ice against the Las Vegas Knights, because if you look at the Las Vegas Knights and their talent, their full talent, they're as talented as any team in the NHL. The roster is stacked. And when you have Jack Eichel and you have Mark Stone, those type of players, these guys are championship type of players and guys that were built to win. This team was built to win. And the way Hill is playing in the net, everybody keeps talking about Bobrovsky. Let's talk about Adin Hill. Adin Hill, besides losing 2 games against Dallas and practically letting Dallas get back into that series, he was unstoppable. Nobody could put the puck behind him. This guy was a 5th string. He wasn't even on the roster in the beginning of the season.
He's never even started a full season on any team. He was a backup last year with the Sharks.
And now he's making a name for himself, just like Jonathan Quick did when he played for LA and when he won those 2 Stanley Cups. All you have to do is make a run and do what he did. How many times did we see Murray do that with the Pittsburgh Penguins? Now, he didn't have much of a career, but Murray won 2 Stanley Cups.
He was the 3rd string on that team, too, because the Rangers actually did well in Game 3 against that backup, and then he got benched, and Matt Murray made history 2 Stanley Cups later.
It always happens. A hot goalie takes his team all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and either wins or loses, but we'll remember this run because of what he has done. Is he better than Bobrovsky? No. Bobrovsky has been one of the best goaltenders in the NHL for the last 10 years. There's no argument to that. He's been an elite goaltender. He just hasn't stayed healthy in the last couple of years. He's making a lot of money. Bobrovsky's making $10 million a year. He's one of the highest paid goalies in the league. And Adin Hill's probably not making more than $300,000-$400,000.
Probably had a minor league deal knowing the way that Vegas has operated, because remember, they had a ton of goalies all throughout the year after Robin Leonard couldn't play this season. It started with Logan Thompson, then it went to Brossoit, then it went to Quick. Like, it rotated around so many guys for a while, and finally they settled on this kid Hill, who was a backup with the Sharks, and they got used to just playing with whoever was in net, and that defense, those skaters really had to play well and adjust to every one of them, and that deserves a lot of credit in itself, especially those last 2 series against Edmonton, best top line besides Boston in the league, and then Dallas, who's the leading top line in the playoffs so far.
I think this series is going to be very, very close. I think it goes 7, but I am going to bet on the team that has the veteran goalie, the goalie that has succeeded practically his whole career, not in the playoffs, but as a career goaltender in the NHL. He has been one of the best goalies in the league for the last 10 years. So I'm going to bet on the Florida Panthers.
One thing you have to look at with Vegas, though, they have a lot of wingers that could hit, though, too. Marchessault is another guy that has a lot of familiarity with the Florida Panthers. I picked Vegas at the start of the playoffs. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go Vegas in 6.